Well, welcome everybody. Joining me today is Mr. Larry Stein, and we're going to be talking about some of the hurdles that he has overcome in his life and the lessons and insights that we can gain from that, and the work that he's doing with helping other people overcome those hurdles. So, Larry, welcome to the program.
Dean, it's great to see you as always. How are you doing?
I'm great. And one of my just most inspiring stories is what you've shared with me about the work that you've done on yourself over the past several years. And so I'm just going to let you set it up. Your experience with dealing with stuttering and your transformation and working through that, and what you saw on the other side of it, and some of the journey that you experienced. So I'm just going to invite you to bring us into your story.
So, in my younger years, like through my 20s, I was a pretty severe stutterer. Really severe. To say my name took 15, 20 seconds. And head shaking, lips pursed, you know, not like what you see in like the King's Speech where there's little hesitations. If it were that, I maybe could have lived with that pretty well. But this was just, I mean, this was very, very difficult, and I let it compromise my career, Frank. Maybe I could have gotten without it, but I let it compromise my career. And I always wanted to be in the stock market, and I wanted to be an investor. And I gave up at the age of 17. I went into my dad's broker's office. I said, how do I get into this field? He said, well, you can be in sales. That's what we have in Chicago. It's all sales. Would you want to do that? And I go, I can't do that. And he said, well, you can go to New York and be an analyst. And here I'm trying to picture myself asking for directions in New York. And I can't do that. And so within 3 minutes, I gave up on my life's dream of being in the investment markets. I read every book on the stock market. I would take books with me to on family vacations, you name it. I was so engrossed in it. I just gave it up in 3 minutes. If I were more persistent, like a person who wasn't so traumatized by speaking, or if I would just, stronger metal resourcefully, personal resource, I would have continued on. I would have found that there was an analyst community growing in Chicago, and I could have done that. But because asking questions was so difficult for me, I just never did. I just gave it up, and I basically gave up. And I went into things where I didn't think I'd have to talk. Like I went into accounting, and frankly, I hated accounting. I hated college. I hated working in accounting, and CPA, master's in tax, and I hated my life. And then I went into financial writing, and that I was very good at, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. But at least that got me talking. And once I got talking, my speech began to improve just from using the machinery, just from being out there. And by the time I was 47, a friend introduced me to his cousin who was opening, it was a little insurance company. He was opening a small little investment arm. And I got the job. I took a 2/3 pay cut to do that. But I got in the field, and 7 years later, I opened my own firm. And I was on cloud nine. Fortunately, email was working then. And so I would use email to set up meetings. And after a year, I loved it. I created my own firm, but I hardly had any clients because, you're asking for $1 million. If you can't get those words out, by that time, here I'm 55 years old, I still couldn't say my name. I still couldn't call people on a phone I didn't know well. I could lead little meetings. I could do small talk very well. I mean, that was huge for me. But that's not going to open investment accounts. And so uh, to keep that short, I went on a 2-year journey. I realized that I public speak better than I talk. I was asked to be the president of this little nonprofit that my cousin was a director, very small, don't be impressed. And I kept on turning them down because I knew I'd have to give a few fundraising speeches, just 5, 10 minutes, about 3 times a year. And uh, the last speech I gave him, was a 10-minute speech when I was an accountant when I was 28. And that 10-minute speech took 28 minutes, 10, 28. So you get some idea as to how severe I was. But I realized that when I was doing these speeches, that I was doing all these crazy things to calm myself down. I'm speaking in phrases. I was playing with the audience. And I developed some things that helped me. And that got me started. I said, wow, for the first time in my life, I'm 55, I'm making some real improvement in my speech. And I caught fire. I began mimicking broadcasters, Matt Lauer in particular. Um, I relearned to speak. And then I realized I had to uh, I had to make that automatic because when the pressure was on, all techniques went out the window. And so I had to make that automatic. So I drummed it into myself. I realized then I kind of hit a ceiling and I had to work through the psychological aspects. And then I realized I then had to go one situation after another in very small steps to get to where I needed to be so I could talk. And once I was able to say my name, and just doing that was a 3 or 4 month project, just to say my name. And that was an unbelievable experience. And once I was able to do that, I felt I didn't have to hide anymore. And there is no cure to stuttering, but by then I felt I was able to get out there, and I built my investment business in a very short time, which I'm now selling because I want to help more people with their speech. About 3 or 4 years ago, it was during COVID. My brother took sick with a rare cancer. He never really figured it out, and I decided that I just want to devote the rest of my life not to my dream business, which was my passion in life, but now to this, which overcame my passion. This is my new passion in life. And so I talk with about 10, 12 people every week, all over the world. I've talked with people from Kathmandu, Africa. I talk regularly with people from Australia, China, more the United States, Canada. They're all over the world, Europe. And these have been the most inspiring, the most fascinating conversations I have because everything's on the table. No one's hiding anything. And I figured out that that's what I want to do. And so I wrote a book. It's called Free to Speak. My journey from stuttering to public speaking. And it's kind of a tell-all book. My wife told me I was crazy to put all the stuff that I did in there. It's going to ruin your business. People are going to run away because I told the unvarnished truth of my life, which is in some ways not so inspiring. But now I help people, and that's been my strange journey. And so I'm literally retiring from my dream business to do this and do some more public speaking around it.
It's such an amazing and inspiring arc that you experienced, and there were so many things going through my mind that are lessons there for everybody who's watching and listening. Regardless of where we find ourselves, we know that we either have faced hurdles that maybe stopped us for that time, or that we are facing right now. And thinking in terms of, the power that that vision, when you found the thing that you said, in order for me to get the thing that I really want, I have to face this thing, this dragon that I have to battle. And until now, until I had this clarity of what I would really wanted to have happen, I could deal with having the dragon kind of off to the side here. And so having that thing that's meaningful enough that I'm willing to go through the pain to deal with it is important for us. And so that's one of the things that I heard from your story is get clear on what you really want, because that's going to be your fuel for going through the pain that you may have to endure. Is that a fair way to see some of what you've experienced?
I think so, Dean. We never really know how good we could be until we really test ourselves. And challenges, at least in my case, and many people I talk with, is something that we tend to avoid. As you were saying, we kind of work around it, make our life. And what I've learned, ironically, is that your challenge, in a sense, is a North Star. It points you to, this is how you can become better. This may be holding you back. And even if it's not, you may not realize how much is in you. And people say, well, you're a special case, because first of all, there is no cure to stuttering. I have my moments now and then if I'm traveling or, group and it's moving fast conversation. But people say, well, you're a special case because you're so motivated and you're such an out there person. You're such an extrovert. I go, not really. I was not that person. And the most surprising thing in this entire journey was that the process, the actual moving through one piece of the challenge after another, the slog of going through it, I became that person that I needed to. I was not that person when I started at all. I was entirely undisciplined. I was entirely unmotivated. I was not that person. But going through the process, pushing, it was like I had a machete and I was breaking through the Amazon, just the jungle, piece by piece by piece. People say, what was your one thing that, turned on the light for you? And it was thousands of things. And it was a constant process. But in that process, you grow, you change. And that's what happened with me.
Yeah, definitely a
And
forging,
so,
right? I mean, it's a
yeah,
forging experience through that heat and that pressure, and through that experience, you had to do a lot of experimentation, uh, because it sounds like there really isn't a roadmap for your journey. You were out there in the jungle. What's the role for anybody that's overcoming challenge, and some of these uncharted territory? What's the role of experimentation as you've found it in that journey?
for me, it was all experimentation because I really didn't use it. Well, I didn't use a therapist at all. I had some speech therapy when I was young. And so when I learned about phrasing, that was helpful. And then after that, it was all experimentation. And I began to look at the world as my laboratory. This is my laboratory. I am in the sandbox. They're all in it with me. And here I was doing the one thing that I feared most in life, to talk. And I was taking on situations that once paralyzed me. But I had already relearned to speak. So there were fundamental changes I made in how I talked. And I worked hard enough to make that automatic so I don't think about it. I addressed psychological issues like avoiding and not just doing all these crazy avoidance behaviors. And then from there, I think the real key, small steps. Sometimes they were so small that to you they would be, it doesn't sound like you did anything new. But to a person who stutters, every little difference is magnified. It's big. And even though they may not seem to be significant, they prove to be significant to my journey. And because I took such small steps and I was focusing not necessarily on fluency, that's a trap. Because if you're just focused on fluency, you're going to avoid. What I was focusing on is wins. I was trying to stack successes to somehow build confidence where there was none. And so just the little shoots of confidence that grew with each little tiny victory. And I would celebrate these little victories. And I began to gain some confidence for the first time in my life in speaking. And from that, it grew. It began to change. So small steps toward growth.
Yeah, it illustrates for me the principle that on the surface we know, but when you see it in real time, when you're experiencing in real time, it really brings it to light, and that is focus on progress over perfection.
Mm-hmm.
If we're looking at perfection, that broadcaster who speaks with perfect diction and pace and all of those things, and we use that as a benchmark of how far we have to go rather than using Matt Lauer in your case as an inspiration for where I'm headed, and we're measuring, did I make some progress in this 10-minute meeting with somebody? Did I do that thing that I've been working on? And I'm making progress. We start seeing that. We're building this statue with Lego blocks, but it's only one block at a time. And let's have the inspiration, but let's not use it as a measurement of perfection. Let's focus on those pieces of progress and have that as motivation. That's what I see your story really being so instructional for people that are working on whatever it is that they're working on, whether you're building a business, whether you're overcoming, health issues, whatever that is. These things are analogs that we can use as a form of roadmap that is not paint by numbers.
Right. We've all got something. We've all got something. Mine was just a lot more overt than others, but we've all got something. And how do we take ourselves from this point to that point? And for me, I found, look at the fundamentals of what you're doing. Are those the right fundamentals, or do you need to relearn or change something? Look at the psychological aspects. Be honest with yourself, and that's hard. That's very hard. And then go from where you want to go, from where you are to where you want to go, the smallest steps, and just take each step and celebrate that growth. And it may take a long time. There's this great adage that I read, that's actually from the Talmud, that there's a long way that's short and a short way that's long. Mm-hmm. For me, I realized I had to take the long way to work through each of these little steps to get to where I wanted to go. It took 2 years, but that was pushing through the slog. It's hard at first, but I found there was joy in the slog because I was doing things I could have never dreamed of.
Well, it's an inspiring story, firsthand experience, and you're there doing coaching and supporting people that are dealing with their own stuttering issues, and I think it's just an amazing way to give back and to really change, support the change that people are wanting to make in their lives. And as we bring the pieces together here, you've got your book, free to speak, awesome. If people want to learn more, they can check that out. And if they're interested on the one-on-one work that you're doing, where should they go to learn more about Larry or get in contact with Larry?
Stein on Stuttering. And so there, I'm on my website, steinonstuttering.com. Email Larry at Stein on Stuttering. By the way, I couldn't say two of those words until I was 57. I couldn't say Stein, I couldn't say stutter. So,
It's awesome.
but, and so I do all this at no charge. This is the greatest joy in my life, except for my grandchildren. Um, this is what I love doing. And I meet with people just about every day, usually at night. And I would love to meet anyone who has this challenge, or really any other challenge, but this has become the focal point of it.
Yeah, that's a great gift, and just a great legacy in so many people's lives. So, Larry Stein, thank you so much for sharing your story and for the work that you're doing. And I look forward to hearing more about your journey and the impact that you're making with people.
Thanks so much, Dean. Really enjoyed it. Always great to see you.
Take care.